Hello, good day. This is the your second module for midterms, module 5, features of an artwork. Okay. So subject, form, and content have always been the three basic components of a work of art, and they are read in a way that it is inseparable. Okay. So when we say subject or the subject matter, it is an artwork's subject matter. It is what the images or object literally represents. How about the content? The content is what the work or what the artwork means. And how about the form? Form is the all the applications you do in or you applied in terms of the elements and the principles of visual design. So they are inseparable. You cannot only choose one and apply it to your artwork. So they should be used all together in an artwork to um, effectively create a masterpiece. Okay. So when we say subject, the subject of visual art can be a person, an object, a theme, or an idea. Though there are many and varied ways of presenting the subject matter, it is only important to the degree that the artist is motivated by it. So, generally speaking, it is the topic or item that it is written about or talked about. It is the subject of discussion or the subject of knowledge being imparted. Ano. So, subject matter for an artist is the object the artist has chosen to draw or paint. So the actual item used in a still life composition, for example, or a scene for a landscape. So the subject matter can also be a person in portrait. This would be known as the visual image. Subject matter would be more closely aligned to what something is about. So it is the literal knowledge or ideas to be discussed and understood. So in general, subject may be thought of as the what. So it is the topic, the focus, or the image that you want to draw or you want to paint. Form, it is the how, the development of the work, composition, or the substantiation. So, what did you apply on your artwork? Ano yung mga ginamit mo? Anong mga elements? The content as the why. So, this is the reason. So, the artist's intention, communication, or meaning behind the work. So, this is the artist's interpretation. So there are six main subjects and isa-isa na natin yan later on. So first is the still life, landscape, number three is nature, portrait, abstract, and Day of the Dead. So let's have analyze what is still life. So still life is a collection of inanimate objects arranged together in a specific way. So the magic of still life paintings is that they can show us a new way of looking at the ordinary objects around us. So once they are placed into a specific arrangement and then captured in paint, ink, pastel, or any other medium, the objects take on a whole new meaning. So they are imbued with a life beyond the ordinary. So their existence becomes recorded in time. Okay. So the objects chosen for a still life painting often have a special meaning. Ano? So they are a meaning beyond, beyond the ordinary. So the meaning itself can either be on a personal, cultural, societal, religious, or philosophical level. So the themes surrounding on the artwork uh, provoke introspection and reflection in the viewer. So the way that the objects are depicted can evoke a wide variety of emotions depending on their arrangement as well as the lighting, the color choice, and handling of the paint. So these are all things that you need to take into account when viewing a still life artwork. Ano? So they are especially important to consider when you are creating one. Okay. So we have here Andy Warhol's Campbell soup cans. So no doubt you can have seen this famous pop art image at some point during your lifetime. Take an ordinary soup can, it's just an everyday object that you wouldn't think twice about as you drop it into your shopping cart. But Warhol's treatment of the subject matter made the soup can colossal. So it is larger than life. It is an image to be reckoned with. Okay. And here are some still life paintings. Ano? Okay. So when looking at a still life painting or when creating one, the most important thing to ask yourself is what does it mean? Ano? So it is a random collection of items or did the artist have a particular intention when choosing them? Or katulad nito, ano? Okay. So it's easy to look at painting and think na they just used some objects, ano. And but the artwork usually goes much deeper, ano, deeper than just depicting pretty objects, ano. Even if a piece is purportedly meaningless, there is always an underlying thought or process behind the work. And if you want to work or to look an art intelligently, it's important to examine the artwork with an investigative eye and an inquisitive mind. Okay. So the themes for still life painting can be cultural, personal, societal, mythological, religious, or philosophical and existential. Okay. Or they can be on material qualities such as color or texture. Okay. So when a viewer looks at a work of art, they are bringing them all of their life experiences, all of their unique memories, all of their knowledge and understanding of the universe. Okay. So the mind interacts with the artwork as their eyes travels over the piece. Ano? What I experience when I look at a certain artwork, ano, it will not be exactly the same as what someone else experiences when looking at the same piece. Therefore, what I will create ano, will not always be interpreted by others in the same way as I intended to. Okay. There is always a mysterious gap between intention and interpretation. And that is the beauty of communicating arts. Ano. Okay. So next we have landscape. Landscape painting or drawing refers to an artwork whose primary focus is natural scenery, such as mountains, forests, cliffs, trees, rivers, valleys, and etc. So the earth is a wondrous creation, from barren deserts to lush rainforests, from swelling oceans to cloudy skies. So the earth provides endless inspirations for visual artists. So nature's palette is everywhere we look. Throughout history, artists have found endless inspiration in the mysterious beauty of nature and the grandeur of the earth's varied landscapes. Okay. So for instance, a landscape painting can be created in an abstract manner, in which the imagery is imbued with a deeper spiritual meaning. So a good artist who work in this method are Aboriginal artists of Australia. So they create intensely detailed abstract paintings. So another group of painters who adapted the use of color to form highly emotional, creative landscapes are the Fauvists. They chose wildly unexpected colors for a jarring and unsettling effect. So landscapes can also be surreal and purely imaginative, as in Dali's unusual and dreamline artwork. So landscape paintings also aren't necessarily limited to depictions of land. For example, they can also include images of seascapes, cloudscapes, skyscapes, riverscapes, or cityscapes. So the main unifying element of any of these scapes artworks is that they all center around some kind of scenery. So we have here, today is and fields of gold. So you can also work from quick landscape studies or sketches. If you're out hiking and there is a lovely view that strikes your eye, you can easily whip out a small sketchbook, or watercolor pad and use pencils, colored pencils or watercolor to quickly make a sketch of what you see. Okay. So it is in this digital age, anyone with access to camera can snap a beautiful photo of a breathtaking landscape. So there are thousands of heart-stoppingly stunning landscapes, photos circulating the internet. So with so much modern conveniences, why should anyone bother taking the time to paint something that can be more easily captured on camera? Okay, so there are lots of reasons. One thing is machine can never replace the artist's hands, which they work in conjunction with the artist's eyes and mind. So they analyze the source of light, they examine the range of hues and tones, and they filter the mass of information and transform the outer vision into painted reality. So we can never replace your picture into a real painting. Okay. So landscapes can be painted plain air or from a photograph. Plain air is a French term that means in the open air. The benefit of plain air painting is that you can see the landscape right in front of you. You are already immersed and absorbed in the beauty of the scenery. There are, however, benefits to working from a photograph as well. If you work from photographs, you can work in the comfort and privacy of your own studio without being dependent on daylight or the weather. You can also take certain elements from different photos to create a unique composite landscape. For example, if you like a hill from one photo and an old tree from another photo, you can combine them into the same landscape. Then, if you want to put a flowing river in front of them, you can. Ano. So you can personalize it. Ano. You can combine different photos to create a unique composite landscape. Okay, here are some examples of landscape painting. Next is nature. Nature is a focused view or interpretation of specific natural elements. Artwork based on nature can take many forms and serve many purposes because nature is such an immense topic that encompasses so many things. Okay, so here are some subtopics that may appear in nature related artwork: flowers, plants, trees, botany, animals, cells, anatomy, model systems, weather, geology, matter, energy, fossils, and any other of natural sciences, water, fire, environment, and so on. Okay, here is some example. This is a cosmic frog. This drawing is part of Deep Thinker series, in which various animals are juxtaposed with evidence of human thought in the form of mathematical equations, quotes, definitions, musical scores, and etc. So these pieces approach the topic of nature in art by depicting a Zen-like transcendent bridge between conceptual thinking and animalistic consciousness. So these two contrasts are united by a careful use of color, decorative design. This piece depicts a frog in front of series of black hole equations. As you can see here in the pictures, there are a lot of mathematical equations. Okay. So nature is all around us and deep within us. We are inseparable from nature. Our bodies, lives, and minds depend on the air we breathe and the food we eat. So the earth sustains our very life force. So without the earth, without the nature, what would be? What would be our life? Kaya. Okay. How about portrait? Okay. So a portrait painting or drawing depicts the image of a particular person or animal or group thereof. So the subject of a portrait is usually called a sitter because traditionally people would sit in front of the artist to have their portrait painted. Nowadays, of course, artists can work from a photograph, so not everyone has to sit for a portrait. So you can now draw or paint portrait using a photograph only, not the exact person that you want to paint or draw. Okay. So a strong portrait captivates viewers, draws them into the painting, and engages their attention. Okay. So such a portrait painting causes the viewer to wonder about the person depicted. In this way, a portrait painting or drawing can function as a biography, telling the story of that person's life. So the artist will carefully craft visual clues to tell the story of the person in the artwork. Portrait paintings can reveal the sitter's place in society, their hobbies or occupation, or aspects of their personality or beliefs. So, when looking at a portrait painting, you can ask yourself, what do the details in this artwork tell me about the person's life? So, you can examine things like facial expression, the gesture or pose, the clothing that she or he wears, and of course the setting. And the objects, what are the other objects in the painting besides the sitter, besides the person, besides the animal, or beside your subject. Okay. And so portraits are effective and compelling when they tell us something about the person. So a good portrait is not just a visual representation of a person, it will also reveal something about the essence of the person, What the portrait reveals may not be completely obvious. Sometimes it can be cleverly implied through a certain expression or pose, an included object, or the artist's use of color. Sometimes the person in the portrait can become iconic, representing a wider group of people from a specific period in time who share something in common. Ayan. So look at this portrait of a man. Then merong iconic symbol ng isang owl. Ano? Okay. Here are some portraits of a woman. Ano? Okay. Very beautiful. Okay. How about abstract? Ano? Abstract is a non-representational work of art. Abstract art is like visual poetry. Though instead of words and sentences, abstract artworks uses color, shape, line, form, pattern, and texture to create a visual dance of the spirit. So the beauty and freedom of abstraction is that it is not supposed to look like anything. Therefore, it's the perfect way to express lofty, intangible concepts such as timeless questions of a spiritual nature or an exploration of the deep pools of human emotions or an investigation of the various mysteries of life and existence. Okay. Ayan. So using of different color, shapes, forms, and textures, and abstract. Lastly is Day of the Dead. So Day of the Dead, called Dia de Muertos in Spanish, is a Mexican holiday that is celebrated from October 31st through November 2nd of each year. On the Day of the Dead, the boundaries between life and death begin to blur as men, women, and children of all ages honor the bands between themselves and their loved ones who have passed away. So the holiday has spread rapidly in the past decade from Mexico to America and beyond. It is now celebrated by Mexicans, Mexican Americans, and countless others, spawning a colorful and distinctive artistic tradition that continues to inspire. So here is an example of Day of the Dead paintings, or masks. Ano. Okay. So sugar skulls, called calaveras de azúcar in Spanish, are among the holiday's most iconic symbols, and they are sold everywhere on the days and weeks leading up to Day of the Dead. So there are market stalls lined with rows and rows of colorful skulls. So they are created from sugar and decorated with multicolored icing, shiny false skins, and glitter. Okay. So we have the second feature, which is the form. As a component of art, the word form refers to the total overall arrangement or organization of an artwork. It results from using the elements of art, giving them order and meaning through the principles of organization. When studying a work's form, we are analyzing how the pieces was created. More specifically, we are examining why the artist made certain scenarios or choices and how those choices interact to form the artwork's final appearance. So in this sense, the word form may actually be brought of as a verb rather than a noun. So ano yung ginawa mo dun sa artwork? Your action. So this includes elements of art, ayan. Line, texture, color, shape, value are the most basic, indispensable, and immediate building blocks for expression. Their characteristics determined by the artist's choice of media techniques, It can communicate a wide range of complex feelings. All artists must deal with the elements singularly or in combination, and their organization contributes to the aesthetic success or failure of a work. Based on the intended expression, each artist can arrange the elements in any manner that builds the desired character into the piece. However, the elements are given order and meaningful structure when arranged according to the principles of organization which help integrate and organize the elements. So the principles of organization are flexible, not dogmatic, and can be combined and applied in numerous ways. So some artists arranges intuitively, and others are more calculating but with experience. And all of them develop an instinctive feeling for organizing their work. So important are these concepts of elements and principles that they are studied separately. Ayan. So before we move on to content, so form is one of the elements of visual art which pertains to the way that a shape or physical configuration occupies space. Okay. So the content, it is the emotional or intellectual message of a work of art. Okay, so nandyan yung statement, expression, or mood developed by the artist dun sa kanyang art. Okay. So, from the three components of art, this is the most difficult to identify because the audience, without direct communication with the artist, must decipher the artist's thoughts by observing the work's subject and form. For example, in The Young Girl in the Lap of Death, the striking emphasis of the left to right diagonals, the sharp contrast of light and dark values, and the aggressive and powerful drawing strokes gives us some insight into Kat Colwitz's concerns for life, though we may not understand the depth of her fashion. So ito yon, this is the painting of Young Girl in the Lap of Death. Death takes on the role of a consoler, so Death appears as a prototypical maternal figure, not as a skeleton, to a young woman who sits in the figure's lap, wistfully nestling up to her. So the woman's shaded eyes and her open mouth create the impression that she is already dead. Yan. So occasionally, artists may be unaware of what motivates them to make certain choices or image of form. For them, the content of the piece may be subconscious instead of deliberate. For example, an artist who had a violent confrontation with a neighbor might subconsciously need to express anger. So, yun yung magiging content niya. And thus compelled or reflect to the work with sharp jagged shapes, bitter acrid reds, slashing agitated marks. So this will be the form. And exploding images, it will be the okay. So content has a broader significance than subject matter. However, content will still embrace subject matter within its overall picture. So the artist's view of content and subject matter helps understand this broader aspect of the difference between these two words. Content shows the artist's points of view with the overall piece of artwork, and it transmits the deeper meaning of or the message behind the artist's drawing and painting. Okay. Content also help to tell stories, share emotions and visions. It holds meaningful aspect of the knowledge to be imparted to the viewers or audience. So the difference between content and subject matter in art is little clearer to understand. So the subject matter being the actual item or person to be painted in the medium of choice. So the subject matter can range from still life objects to people and places or a combination of several subjects. However, or in contrast, the content revolves around the mood of the artist and the theme behind the painting. Mood may be portrayed with different uses of the medium in the painting and the way the subject matter is used to convey the content or meaning of the artwork. So, therefore, the content is the message and feelings expressed through the artwork. Ayan. So this will be the last. Ayan. Thank you for listening.